Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 22 of Zipline, the official Zipper Interactive podcast. I'm Chris Roper.
I'm Jeremy Dunham, and today we are joined by Zipper Vice President Mike Gutmann. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Yes, welcome to the podcast. I've been trying to get Mike on this podcast, I think, since we had the idea for the podcast.
It's a great idea for the podcast, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we invented them. Thanks. But no, thanks for coming on. It's been a long time coming, and I'm really anxious to ask you a lot of the questions that we have.
There's some good ones on the sheets, yeah.
Yeah, there's some
We
really
got some
nice
good
ones.
ones.
But first,
time for the Z-Cap.
right, so the big news this week, obviously, is that Mag 2.0 came out yesterday, September 30th, if you're listening to this far in the future. It has PlayStation Move support, an increased level cap, revamped skill tree, new economy system, the clan deploy feature, which a lot of people have been waiting for. There are tons of changes.
Tons of changes, yeah.
If you want the full list of what's in there, we'll play the game, number one. But number two, you could go to the blog.mag.com and check out our news on the story. It's very comprehensive. The team worked really hard in putting this together, months and months and months of work, and I think it really paid off, and it's a great patch.
Yeah, and special thanks to anybody that played the beta and provided feedback on what you liked, didn't like, things that were broken and whatever, because all of that feedback went into the release that came out yesterday.
Yeah, and I think that people who did play the beta, you'll notice a lot of the changes that were implemented almost immediately, particularly if you're a PlayStation Move user.
Yeah.
The difference in PlayStation Move support in the 2.0 patch versus the beta patch, it's like night and day, and it's much, much better now. And that is all thanks to the fact that you allowed us to test out these other schematics and options for you in the beta. So thank you.
Right. Another really cool piece of big news for MAG is that MAG is now a greatest hits title.
Yes.
That means that it's now half price of what it used to be, $29.99, $29.95. I don't know.
Yeah, $30.
Yeah, $30 gets you a box with a little red stripe at the top, kind of,
right.
Little like a racing stripe if you want to throw it across the room. As a note, some people were asking about this. It is not a reprint of the disc.
No, it's not a remastering as it's known.
Right, so you're not going to get all the DLC bundled and everything like that. It's the same game, just half price. More people are going to, hopefully be interested in it. It's got the little Move sticker on it, so we're hoping that people go pick up the Move and say, what games support it? Bam, MAG right there, only $30 for you now, full Move support. Go play that game. So.
That's right. And one thing for that needs to be noted, if you're the type that's a video game collector or someone who gets a little bit super particular about what kind of a version.
Like you.
Yeah, like me. I like to have the original versions of everything, and
right.
They have to stay in great condition, and I never get rid of my games, but you know this. The thing about this is the boxes actually aren't on the store shelves yet. So even though the greatest hits price is applied to it, the boxes themselves, so if you still want the original box, you can go out there, you can find it for the original price.
Right.
That box should probably hit around next week. That's when you'll start seeing it in the stores.
And some retailers, just for a note, some retailers are a little slow about marking things down and stuff like that. But if you go into the store and you say you go to Walmart, walk it up to the register and have them check it if it's not marked correctly yet.
This story I have to share, though. Chris and I actually went into a GameStop the other day to pick up some video games, because that's what we do. We buy video games. Yeah. And when we went in there, we asked if any of the greatest hits games had...
this was on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, the day that it happened. If any of the greatest hits games had been marked down yet. And the guy said, no, not yet. That'll happen shortly. Was there one in particular you were interested in? And we said, oh, no, we were just curious because we know their greatest hits announced today. He's like, yeah, the only big one that I remember was MAG. So to me, that really stuck out, that was the thing. The first one that stuck out to him as the big one, he didn't know who we were. So that's a great thing. And then ironically, right after he said that, Ed Byrne, our creative director, appeared on the TV in GameStop TV.
Shortly followed by Travis Steiner.
Yes, talking about SOCOM 4.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is we're plants.
Yeah.
If you see us at GameStop, we're going to inundate you with Zipper stuff.
The last piece of news that we're going to mention here is that the results for Influence Mag are in. If you don't know what Influence Mag is, it's where we present you with some sort of question, and you get to vote on what happens to the future of the game. We've let you vote on whether or not disconnecting from the game counts as a win or counts as a loss or not. We've let you vote on changing the time limit for domination. And this last one was whether or not domination should become faction neutral, which is kind of a hot topic lately. And the result is that no, domination will not become faction neutral. The voting was
48 to 52.
48 to 52. And if you read the fine print on these things, because it's such a game-changing thing, we require 60% of the votes to go, yes, this change should happen. So it was it's close in the yes no's, but not super close in actually happening.
And to be specific, it wasn't 48 people to 52 people. That's
no, it's thousands.
48% no and 52%. I'm sorry, 48% yes, 52% no, and yes, thousands of you voted. So thank you very much. Of course, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. We get to ask Mike some questions. All right, Mike, we had Brian Soderberg, our Zipper president, on in August on SOCOM's birthday week. You're the vice president. He's the president. Can you explain the difference between what you guys do day to day? We actually get that question asked a lot whenever positions are sound similar to each other, and people want to know what the differences are.
Creative director versus lead designer, producer versus
or game director versus creative director. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, well, I guess Brian and I share an interesting pair of roles there as president and vice president. Zipper's a very flat organization. We don't have a big hierarchy there, and so we have a lot of shared responsibilities. And I think in a lot of ways, you could boil it down to he tells me what to do and I do it. But no, seriously, I might have a stronger bias towards some of the technology. From a systems approach, work very closely with our directors to make sure that our technology's headed in the right way.
Both of you come from programming and engineering backgrounds. Is that right?
We do actually, and even before Zipper started, before Brian started Zipper, I worked with him at the previous company as well. So we've had quite a history together.
You've been here for a long time. Can you tell us what your roles were? Like I just said, you had a programming background. Can you tell us what your roles were starting from the earlier games, particularly the earlier SOCOM titles?
Sure. When Zipper started, and I started here in 96, started here as an engineer. I think we had, 3 different roles at the time. You were either an engineer, an artist, or a designer, and that was it. And then kind of progressed from lead to director and finally to vice president. On the earlier SOCOM titles, I got a chance to work mainly on the core systems, certainly with a heavy emphasis on AI for SOCOM 1 and 2. And then, for SOCOM 3, did some, engine re-architecture to support our streaming system and so forth. So had, worn a lot of different hats along the way.
One question that I think appears probably on pretty much every forum that has to do with video game makers: who decides what projects studio works on? For example, who gave the go-ahead on MAG and SOCOM 4 to make that over, some other project, different new IPs, or doing another expansion to SOCOM 3? Who makes those decisions, and how do they come about?
Well, I think when the time's right, a certain time in the project, we sit down and we've got boxes of ideas that come up along the way, and then we try to sort through them and figure out which ones appeal to us most, which ones present the right challenges, which are things that we're actually interested in building, and also fall into with the area of something that we think we can do very well at. Zipper has always made online games, so I would be very surprised if we ever pursued something that didn't have an online component. So we sort through that box, and then we also work very closely with Sony to make sure that what we're trying to do fits with their business plan as well. They're at the end of the day, this is a business, so we have to make sure that it's viable. But at the same time, we have a handful of ideas, and we have to whittle it down to what we as a company think is going to be the most exciting for us to do.
So how does that work exactly? Do you take our section of ideas and then present Sony with this, and then they decide which one to go with? Or is it more specific where you say, this is the particular project we want to work on, Sony, give us your blessing, let's do this?
Yeah, I think it is, it's a little bit iterative, but ultimately what we try to do is boil it down to, the idea that we feel most passionate about, and then we make a pitch for it. We are, we're a wholly owned subsidiary, but we're an independent studio. We have some level of independence there, and we try to, develop and nurture the idea along, and then make our pitch for it, just like anybody else would.
I think one very interesting thing about Zipper, particularly with PlayStation stuff, is that it's always been at the forefront of new technologies coming from Sony. The network adapter, I believe that Fireteam Bravo was the first game to support voice support for the PSP, which people didn't really expect at the time. Lots of things that Zipper did as first.
MAG, 256 players,
obviously,
yeah.
MAG. That technology forefront thing, is that a conscious decision, or is it sort of like, here's the next title, and what can we do to make it cool? Oh, let's break some new ground while we're at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of both those things. I mean, when you're considering a new idea, we definitely want to be innovative and try to be out there in front. I mean, you never want to be the guy trailing behind, right? I mean, you want to be kind of setting that bar and setting the pace. So I mean, I think certainly when we looked at MAG, I mean, we had we said, well, hey, can we do 5,000 players? And we started whittling it back to something that was both achievable and felt realistic, felt like we could execute on from a content perspective as well as from a technical perspective, and I think that actually showed off pretty well. I mean, you mentioned a couple of the other things being network adapter for the PS2, but also the voice recognition stuff that we did early on as well. So always looking for those for the technical achievements, and I think there's even more coming in our future.
One little side story to just supplement what Mike said a little bit. We talked to Mike Nicolino on the PlayStation blog way back when, and he actually, so everyone knows, we actually have the ability to do a game even bigger than 256 players if we wanted to. We actually have that tech. That's the type of stuff that we've done, and we chose to stop at 256 simply for gameplay reasons, which shows you what the guys here, the very talented programmers and engineers here are capable of doing, is that we had to stop ourselves because, we could go higher, but we just chose not to.
Let's get to a reader question here from Kage Hoshi, who wants to know if Zipper will ever develop a game that isn't a modern American military game, maybe something like Sever-style Rebel Force or a futuristic shooter of some sort.
That's a great question. I mean, we've had a number of ideas that certainly take us quite a ways away from maybe SOCOM or even the MAG style games. I think what we come back to is that at our core, those are MAG and SOCOM are the styles of games that we love to play. So that's where we tend to resonate. Those resonate very well with us, and somewhere where we tend to end up when we filter through all the ideas that we've got. So will it not be, I guess, a modern military shooter? Is like, yeah, it's very possible that we'll break away from that, but I don't think we'll venture too far from what we feel we're good at.
Smalley Biggs asks, why do Sony first-party studios always create their own engine and technology instead of sharing each other's engines? Why don't we see MAG on the Killzone engine, for instance, or SOCOM 4 on the Uncharted engine, things like that?
Actually, I think everybody'd be awfully surprised to see how much technology actually gets shared behind the scenes. We spend a fair amount of time meeting with those guys and talking about different things and sharing different ideas. But ultimately, the engine is based on what the goals of the title are, and are really influence on how the gameplay needs to play. For example, MAG and its requirement for 256 players changes what we need to do and some of the architecture that needs to exist there to support that. The other key piece is that the content pipeline is largely influenced by your art team and stuff, and each one of those is different. So I mean, there's going to be some uniqueness there.
Let's get to some reader questions about MAG. Doug JK wants to know, if you don't have the DLC, but you kill someone who does, talking about the Escalation DLC that's forthcoming, and the 9 new weapons are going to be included with that. If you kill somebody who does have that, will you be able to scavenge their DLC-only weapons? And if not, what will happen?
So take him down, run over there, grab his weapon. You'll be able to pick it up just like any other weapon on the battlefield. You'll have it in your inventory. You just won't get to use it or outfit your guy with it. So you'll get to use it until you die again, and then you got to give it up. So yeah, it's there. You can. It gives you kind of a quick chance to try it out.
Mm-hmm. Jesus 1111 wants to know if it's possible to make it so that even though the current domination maps are faction specific, following the results of the Influence Mag program that Chris talked about earlier. Can we expect a future neutral map of some sort to appear for domination, while current ones basically act as home bases?
AKA, could we add a 4th or 5th map that is faction neutral, while the original 3 stay faction
remain the
specific?
way they are? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we looked at the results from the poll and would like to keep the maps to be faction specific. But in terms of making them neutral, that's certainly a possibility. But right now, we're taking a look at all the things that we have on the table for MAG and what's next. And definitely want to make sure that we're really spending our time on the most important things. So this one may very well bubble up to the top of the list, but right now I can't say that we will do that for sure.
Sniper 768 has a question that a lot of people have been asking for a long time now. I guess since right before its release. He wants to know if MAG will ever get a demo or a trial like there is for other online PSN games like Warhawk.
Insert small pause here. Yeah, I mean, actually, this is something that we've spent a lot of time discussing internally, and absolutely believe it'd be a fantastic thing to do.
All right, Aloyo wants to know, what is your take on how to increase the player count for the DLC mode, Interdiction specifically? And do you think that the lower player count for Interdiction compared to the other non-DLC modes will affect the sales of new DLC when it comes out?
Admittedly, I mean, I think we had we saw some low player counts for the Interdiction, but, we discovered an unintended bug of the directives queue that basically caused people to end up forced into Interdiction, whether, regardless of where the algorithm should have taken them for the directives queue. So we fixed that in 2.0. Everybody should be able to grab that right now. And, in addition to that, we'll be able to use XP and CP levers to really bias, what games get spun up. So we'd really like to still, try focusing on using the directives queue to influence that. Make sure games get spun up.
I think specifically what they want to know is that because the Interdiction mode itself, with a bug in mind and the other factors, with the fact that it had a certain amount of people playing it compared to the main modes, do you think that there might be a perception that not many people are going to play the new DLC when that comes out, and that could affect it? I think that's specifically what he's asking.
I mean, it's a good question, and something that we'll have to wait and find out. I mean, I think the new maps that are going to be coming out, and I know a lot of people got an opportunity to play them in beta, offer a completely new style of gameplay for MAG even in the 3 faction maps, and I think that'll be something new and unique, and hopefully will generate a lot of interest. And we've got to look at this realistically, and our ability to generate this new content and generate the interest in it is largely going to drive the future of MAG.
And hopefully things like the greatest hits release and move support and all that will generate some more interest, get people playing in that. So, we're optimistic about how that will turn out.
Yeah, it's all about
Absolutely.
the mode. It's all about the mode because, some people who play Sabotage all the time aren't necessarily into Domination, but Domination still has its super fans who play that almost entirely. So even though one DLC mode might not be your cup of tea, this new one very well could be something that you're playing all the time. So I don't think one affects the other.
Damien wants to know if you think that if all maps and modes were neutral, that the game's replay value would last longer.
Yeah, Damien. I mean, I think that's something that we that was one of the motivating factors behind turning them to be more neutral, and that you give wider variety there. And we did see at the poll though that that more people wanted to maintain the faction specific maps, and that I think some of the fear and I think it's reflected in that poll is that the unity of the factions would get watered down, or kind of the ownership of that territory loses its significance when we do make them all faction neutral. So something that in definitely the additional DLC where we do have them faction neutral, we try to represent that as kind of a new area, so it doesn't feel like we're taking away from the existing factions.
Great question from Boxfark. He wants to know, what is the future of MAG and how much longer will it be supported? This is probably now, as we're almost a year after release, the most asked question that we get outside of the small minutia about weapons.
And it is a great question, and I mean, certainly we continue to work on MAG. We have a group of guys that continue to support it. Bugs that come up, we certainly address as quickly as we can. I mean, we're 8 or 9 months after the initial launch for this last patch that went live yesterday. We spent over a month doing a beta for that. So I mean, we continue to spend a lot of time and resources working on it, and we're really excited about the impact that Going Greatest Hits could make, really to kind of push that along. Ultimately, we do have to look to how many people are playing it, and how much interest there is to figure out kind of what is next in the list of things to do there.
And we'd also have to find ways to continue to support our team, because the more time you spend developing a game, the more money you're spending as a development crew as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there are. I know that we've set MAG up to be kind of this platform that evolves, and certainly at certain stages of the life cycle of a title, you more or less you bring the continued support, you slow it down so you can put those resources on kind of the what's next, whether it be the next iteration of the title or or something new altogether.
Dr. Blue Jeans wants to know if you would consider MAG a success. Nobody is really sure how many copies it has sold to date. Although we did, just did the greatest hit, so it is a greatest hit.
We know how many it sold.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody that builds games, I have to say, even, the best and the worst. I mean, if you end up taking a title and pouring your, blood, sweat, and tears into that over the course of some number of years, and you end up getting it on the shelf and getting out there, and you've got a community that shows the interest in it. I mean, I consider that a success. On top of that, Chris, you mentioned, we're excited about doing the greatest hits. That's definitely an achievement that not every title achieves. And not to mention some of the technical things. 256 players, we're excited about that. And really broke some real ground for us. It's definitely a big achievement for us to get MAG done and out.
And I think another element about it that the public might not necessarily latch onto, but we as a company would, is the fact that now that we have this technology, we can build on that and use that for a number of projects going forward. And being able to create something and spend that amount of time and have that technology not only for us but to offer to other Sony studios, I think is also another level of success. It doesn't get a lot of play in the media or by the general fan, but is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Red Violence wants to know if you feel that MAG has made an impact on the video game industry in a significant way.
Well, having MAG been out only about 8 months or now, I think it's fairly early to tell. If you see a bunch of all the MMOs trying to get a first-person mode into their games, you know that MAG has had a big impact there. I'm not sure you're going to see that real soon, but I don't know. I mean, we'll look over the course of a year or two and see if it's influenced other titles.
Look to see if a WoW orc is wearing a balaclava.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Now let's get to some SOCOM questions here. The first one comes from Dirty Walter, and he wants to know when can we expect to get a demo or beta for SOCOM 4?
I think ultimately right now we're we're all hands on SOCOM 4, and outlining the specific date or the specific time that we're going to get a demo out is probably not the best thing to do right now. But we're working on it. We understand that we want to give everybody a sneak peek and let them take a look at it as soon as possible. But we want to do that as soon as we're actually ready, so that they're as excited as we are about the title.
Yeah, one thing that people need to remember is that definitely 2011 title, and there's still 2 months left in 2009. So there's a lot of time left to go before they have to worry about getting too close before they can try it out.
We're not going to surprise you with the demo release next week, which some people have been thinking, oh my God, are they about? No, you're not going to get a demo next week or something like that. No. We're still a little whiles off.
Flirds wants to know, will SOCOM 4's multiplayer be revealed at CES next year? It's the next big show. Or are we probably going to get multiplayer information before that?
I think we, a lot of times we look at CES and wonder, what we're going to say, what we're going to talk about. CES isn't typically focused on, game software. I mean, it's more of a consumer electronics show, so it's not necessarily the best stage to make those sort of announcements. So I don't anticipate making a big splash about SOCOM 4's multiplayer there.
McButt78 says, what does SOCOM mean to you as a player? Not from a business angle, but as someone who just sits down and plays it.
It's funny. I despite having worked on those titles, I think SOCOM, especially the early ones, are titles that I actually played through beginning to end and still enjoy them. I think one of the things I like most is the fact that they are different every time. I mean, we don't spend a great deal of time scripting the AI to work exactly some way that when I run up to this bunker that they go through some set of moves. So I like the fluidity of the game and the fact that it's just a different experience every time I pick it up. From a multiplayer standpoint, there's a whole slew of things that I can think of that get me excited about that. But that's pretty much why we made it the way it is in the first place. I think these are things that make the title or the people here at Zipper get very excited about and very passionate about, and is really the core nucleus behind the SOCOM series.
This could be the most important question of the show. Kill Frosty wants to know, Mike, why am I so awesome?
Frosty, that's a tough one.
There's so many reasons.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where to begin. The first thought is that you've chosen such a scary and intimidating creature to declare for yourself, and I picture this snowman and just slicing him up and filling him full of lead.
All right. Effecty wants to know, what do you think makes the SOCOM series so unique compared to other shooters?
Well, I mean, that's something that we look towards every time we set out to do something. I mean, every time, I think every developer probably sets out and says, "Hey, I want to do it different. I want to put my spin on it," and that's something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about the SOCOM series. And I think a lot of ways it boils down to a couple of things. The team aspect of the game, and there's no question that it's a very team centric game and very different because you actually lead the team through the environment, through the series of missions, as opposed to being led around. That's something that we're always excited to talk about. Then of course the tactical nature. I mean, SOCOM is very well known for being a tactical shooter, both in single player and multiplayer. I mean, there's tons of aspects there. And then I think the other thing is that our multiplayer mode has always been considered one of the top or the most played modes out there, and we're excited to continue that trend with SOCOM 4.
Sigma 9000 wants to know, will there be a SOCOM 4 themed PlayStation 3? So we've seen ones out there already with like Final Fantasy 13 and God of War. Will there be one themed after SOCOM 4?
You mean the actual console?
Yeah,
or
the actual console.
PS3 theme that, your background, the animated background sort of stuff.
Actual console, sort of like the big bundles where you get the game and you get the console that has some kind of logo on it. Maybe a special color, SOCOM blue or something.
I bet we could get get some of our concept guys, concept artists out, and get them set up with their airbrushes, and we go to town on the consoles if people want to send them in. It's probably not a good idea. Please don't send your consoles in. That's a good question. I don't know. Those are usually driven by the hardware group in Sony, and we while we have conversations with them and try to figure out what makes the most sense. I have not been approached about supporting a SOCOM 4 themed PS3 yet.
So the best course of action for the fans, if they did want something like that, would be to let Sony know.
They ought
mass.
Yeah, exactly, in mass. Let them know that they want it, and it surprised me if the fan base couldn't make it happen.
Lukenbacher has an interesting question. He wants to know that if you could offer one statement to the longtime SOCOM fan base that would ease concerns out there regarding multiplayer, what would it be?
I think the thing that I keep gravitating towards is letting everybody know that it is absolutely fun and competitive. I mean, I been playing a lot lately. We've got teams formulated within the company. We're playing
clans now.
Yeah, exactly. We got our clans set up.
You're on the Zorillas.
I'm on the Zorillas,
and Chris and I are on the Fighting Marmots.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got our clans internally that we use both to test it out and everything. And I think if you've been working on a title for a while and you still pick it up and you get jazzed about playing and everything, then you're headed in the right direction. And I think ultimately, I mean, the one statement I would say is that we're being true to the spirit of SOCOM.
Yeah, and that to me is what sticks out most. I think that's the most reassuring thing that you could tell anyone who's apprehensive is we've been playing the game, and we basically have these constant clan battles within Zipper all the time, and then we have these feedback meetings, see what we liked and disliked. And it feels like a SOCOM game when you play it. But sure, there are some subtleties that come with the difference in technology and the generation gap. But the game feels like a SOCOM game. When I start playing it, beginning to end, it feels like nothing else. I know that it's SOCOM immediately. Mm-hmm. The last question. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that. I mean, we're excited about making sure that it is exactly what we want it to be before we get it out there. And I understand there's a lot of people waiting anxiously to check it out. But the last thing we'd want to do is put it in anybody's hands until we're absolutely happy with it.
Sergio Loves Hot Dogs, which wins my award for best nickname of the week. One says, you guys were working on MAG and SOCOM 4 for a while before they were announced, or came out in MAG's case. Is it safe to assume then that it will be a long time before you learn what you're working on after SOCOM 4, or are you guys already knee-deep in your next project?
Well, I mean, I think, there's a couple of parts of that question, right? There's a couple of ifs, ands, or ors. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now we're all hands on deck for SOCOM 4. We're focused on getting that out there and making it as awesome as it can be. We constantly keep an eye on what's next, and we want to make sure that we don't get too far behind the curve. So the box of ideas that I mentioned earlier is we definitely have those out and are and making some tough decisions there. But that's really focused on a much smaller group right now.
I think that brings us to the time for the zip tip.
For those of you that are not familiar with the zip tip, you should be. We've talked about it in every podcast. But if you're not, the zip tip is a recurring theme that we have where our guest of the week that lets us know some bit of wisdom from their tome of knowledge they keep in their brain. Could be about anything. Could be about a video game that we've made. Could be about a video game they're currently playing. Could be about life in general. Mike, what is your zip tip this week?
Oh man, my tip of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a kids program? No, seriously. Here's my tip of the week off the top of my head. If you're out for a bicycle ride, you know what? You need to take about a 4-inch strip of duct tape, wrap it around your seat post. You never know when you're going to need some duct tape. I mean, you can use that to patch a tube. You can use that to patch a tire. Use it for whatever you want to.
You're really into biking.
I am. I love cycling. I mean, you know what? If you're in here as much as as much as we are, and you feel like you're kind of sit at your desk all the time, you got to have something to keep yourself motivated and moving. So yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Washington is a great straight to bike around.
I chew food. That's what keeps me moving. But even your photo on the Zipper website is you standing next to your bicycle.
Yes, keeps me moving. So you know what? I actually maybe that comes back to to Brian, our president. As I saw his picture of him on his motorcycle, and back a few years ago, he's a crazy madman on a motorcycle. I mean, big into Supercross and everything. And I'm like, geez. And here I ride my 12 speed or whatever around. So anyway, that's the.
So we got Brian on a motorcycle. We have you on a bicycle. What are the chances of us getting Seth on a tricycle?
You know what? I think
unicycle.
I got the big wheel on order.
Nice.
I think that's in order.
Sweet.
I think that brings us to the end of the show. Mike, thank you for coming on the show this week. Lots of great things to talk about. You can send your questions, as always, to Zipline at zipperint.com. Send us anything you want to know about, topics you want to talk about, suggestions for the show, pictures of your dog, as always.
That's right. If you want to send in a question and you don't want to use email, you want to do it a more traditional way, then we also have our official Q&A threads that appear on the SOCOM forum and the MAG forum starting every Monday. And just go to the official blog discussion section. You can find them. And make sure that you look for the most recent one. I've actually seen a few comments for people saying, I tried to ask a question, but then they were basically clicking on the older threads.
Right. As always, you can find us on your favorite social networking sites like Twitter and Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Twitter/Zipper and on Facebook at Facebook/SOCOM and Facebook/Zipper Interactive.
Our next episode will be on October 15th. Remember, we do a fortnightly schedule now, every 2 weeks.
Good word.
Thank you. Yes. And our special guest will actually be a pair of software engineers, Chris Oj and David Johnson.
Boy.
They'll be able to tell you how MAG works, answer questions about various things, and Mike's reaction should tell you it should be an entertaining show.
It's going to be a good time.
That's right.
Can't wait.
They are really in the middle of what makes MAG and SOCOM work. So they know a lot of really interesting details about these games.
Yep.
Make sure you send your questions because I think it'll be a good show.
Mm-hmm. That brings us to the end. Mike, once again, thanks. Jeremy, you usually thank me at the end of this. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I know. I'm making you feel uncomfortable with it. You're looking around like, what's happening?
Who am I thanking?
Yeah. So that's the end.
Thank you for thanking me, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for all those sorts of things. Anyway, we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. Bye.